afternoon and good evening from wherever you're watching from. Welcome to Parklands Baptist Church for this session again on psychoeducation. We do hope that in the previous series, you already got a lot of information on mental health from my colleague Macrin. So this is going to be a continuation of some of the things that we are going to be talking to you about. And in this particular series, we are going to talk about anxiety. Anxiety is something that affects most of us, and I do hope that this session will be useful. So my name is Annemarie Ojunga. I'm a certified professional mediator and a psychological counselor. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is generally our body's response to stress. And you may want to know, what is really stress? Stress is an inbuilt mechanisms in our body that help us to respond to a threat. And the threat can either make you want to fight or want to run away, or flight as they call it. So normally when you're stressful, your body reacts in an anxious way and you feel that you cannot cope with the situation. So we'll share more about what happens to us, how we can cope with it, and also how we can help our children to cope with it. So one thing that we need to know that is very important is to try and distinguish between anxiety, which happens to most people, and a panic attack, which is also a form of anxiety. So usually anxiety occurs when it is triggered by something. In this period where we have COVID-19, you may be stressed due to your financial situation. You could be stressed because you all have to be in the house at the same time with your children, and maybe you don't know how to deal with them. You could be stressed because of many things. You used to go out with your friends, you used to hang out after work, but now you have to be in the house by 7. So this causes anxiety. So there is a trigger for it. As for panic attack, there's usually no trigger. It can happen anytime, and it is a disorder. So this really has to be diagnosed by a professional and then treated. So usually anxiety will present itself with some symptoms. They are usually physical symptoms. You could have some headache, you could have some tightness in your stomach, your heart may start racing when the trigger is there, you may have breathing difficulty, and you may have some chest pain. While with panic attack, you may also have the same physical presentations, but now more intensely. You may not really know how to cope with it, and you may feel like you're losing control of the situation. So that is something that is important to note, that can differentiate anxiety attack from a panic attack. Another thing about anxiety attack is that it comes gradually. You'll feel like you're getting stressed. You feel like you're breathing harder. You feel like you cannot sit in one place for a long time. You feel like you cannot cope with the situation as soon as the trigger is there. But with a panic attack, it's sudden, there's no warning. You just find that all of a sudden you're losing control of the situation. And usually it could go for about a few minutes up to 1 hour. So anxiety attacks are usually less severe, whereas the panic attack is a more severe situation. And like I said earlier on, this is a condition that you cannot diagnose yourself. You need to get a professional to help you deal with it. And usually symptoms of panic attack, they recur. You may find that at certain points of your time, you cannot breathe, you cannot do anything, you're losing control. You may even think that you're dying and start experiencing symptoms as if you're really losing control of your life. Anxiety attack, usually the symptoms go away as long as you've already removed yourself from that stressful situation. So what do you watch out for? And in this session, we'll talk about what happens to adults, and we'll also talk about what happens to children because they manifest differently at times. So first, you'll feel restless. And normally when you're restless, you're walking about, you're sitting up, you're walking, you don't know what you really want. You just know that you cannot sit steady for a long time. So this happens in both children and in adults. So you really need to watch out in children, like, are they restless? Because children can be restless because of different things. When they're hungry, when they're disappointed. But with this kind of situation, you'll notice that they also present some symptoms. They may tell you that they're being choked while they're eating nothing. They may also feel like They can't really sit down for in any part even for a second. And then you'll have sleeping problems for both children and adults. You may suffer from insomnia for a while. And you'd also feel sad because you really can't point out to why you're behaving the way you are. Children get sad and they also get fatigued. So you may find a child lying down, not wanting to go anywhere, or just staying in bed or at a corner lying down. You really need to look at that child and see probably something has changed in the situation of that child. For adults, you may have nausea, you feel like vomiting, or for some who have very sensitive stomachs, they may also exhibit symptoms of diarrhea. So it's diarrhea that comes out of nowhere. It's not an infection. It's just that your body is reacting to the situation you're in. For children, we'll have nausea as well, and they'll always complain of stomach pain. So when they're cramping their stomach, holding it, you need to ask yourself, what is really happening to this child? You may feel faint. For some people, they actually faint. And this happens to both children and also with adults. And you'll feel pressured, like, I really need to deal with something urgently. You may not know what it is, but you feel like you're hurried. You feel like you have pressure in that particular time. The children will feel the same as well, but they'll also have what we call depersonalization. A child may feel like they're not themselves. They may feel, if they're children who maybe admire a certain superhero in a movie that maybe feels strong for them, they may feel that they're that person at that time. And this may exhibit itself so many times, and you'll feel like this child is actually talking out of a point of that is not a reality. So that is another sign you may feel with some children. You'll feel some headache for both children and adults, and you feel like your mouth is suddenly drying up. So you need to watch out for those symptoms. Of course, you'll get irritated, and for children, they get irritated, but for some children, they exhibit what we call selective mutism. They may just decide they don't want to talk. You talk to them, you shake them, you try to appease to them, you try to give them a gift, but they're just quiet. They're not going to talk to you. So if this happens in a period where there's a stressful situation, then you need to ask yourself, is this child suffering from anxiety? So the common causes of anxiety, usually in children, there's what we call the school anxiety when a child joins school for the first time. It's an environment that is new to this child. They don't know what to expect. They've been at home with you. They've been feeling safe at home with you. Their routine has already been established at home. So when a child goes to school for the first time, they feel that they cannot cope with the situation. There is what we call a stranger anxiety, and this happens to children earlier on in life, especially when they're around 7 to 9 months. If you have children, you'll see this, that they don't want to be carried by anyone else apart from you or apart from the person that is used to nursing them. So there is a form of anxiety, and you need to know that your child is going through something. Most children fear the dark, so they have different kinds of fears. Some may have phobias, which is an extreme fear of something. Some may just fear the dark. Most of them, they'll fear insects, anything that is crawling. For toddlers, they may fear height. They may not want to climb in a place where they can fall. And for most children, they also fear the storm. When it's raining and there's lightning, then they fear. And this causes them anxiety. So we need to watch out, like, how can we support them during this time? And then what also affects children very much is change in routine. And I'll tie this down to what is happening in the world right now. Like, we have the COVID-19 disease, which has totally changed the routine of children. They were used to going to school, or they were used to staying at home with the nanny or with mommy or whoever was taking care of them. All of a sudden, there are people in the house all the time. They're not able to go to school. They cannot connect with the teachers that they love. They cannot see their friends. So this sudden change of routine is likely to cause anxiety in children. So you need to find out what is your child reacting to that is causing the anxiety in the child. For adults, we have different things, mostly conflict in relationship with families, with friends, with co-workers. You can also have difficult work situations. Maybe you're struggling to supervise your staff, or maybe you're struggling to cope with co-workers. You could be working under a demanding supervisor. There could be high workload. You may not have the right amount of direction on how to do your work, or you may just be struggling with low compensation. Maybe you feel you should be paid more than what you're earning. So these are likely to cause anxiety, especially if the trigger comes now that maybe you're on half pay, or maybe you're working from home and the compensation is not the same, and this is likely to cause anxiety. There could also be difficult times like the pandemic. This one affects everyone because we are watching the social media all the time, we are watching television, we are listening to updates on how it's affecting us. So anxiety is likely to catch up with all of us, but with different levels depending on our personalities. And then there's also society pressures for different things. If you've married, what you're doing with your marriage, how you're raising your children, how you're earning your wealth, if you're rich as your peers, and so many things. All these are forms of anxiety that can make it difficult for us to cope. And then, of course, there can be also intrapersonal, you yourself being conflicted within, you're struggling internally, like, should I do this thing or I do a different thing? So that could also lead to that. So in terms of anxiety management, we look at it also in two ways for adults and children. Please create some personal space for yourself, especially if you're working from home now. Take time away from people, even if it's for 10 minutes. Meditate, read, listen to music or dance, and also do the same to the children. Try to make sure they're doing something that they love. Take health breaks, take a walk outside, eat something that is nutritious, both for adults and children. And then, very importantly, explore your source of fear and find out, can you really control it? We cannot control COVID-19. We cannot control the curfew. We cannot control who gets it or not, but you can keep yourself safe. So you need to find out within yourself, what can you do and what can't you do? And help the children understand, answer their questions correctly. Why? Because when you answer them wrongly, the children will not trust you and they'll start having problems. So answer them correctly at their level. Change scenery if you can. Think of something. You can take a walk. I've already talked of that. And then for children, help them create worry time, because they worry all the time. So you can talk to them and tell them, can you just spend 10 minutes in this corner thinking about your problems, write it down or draw it, and then it will help them decompartmentalize so that worry does not occupy the whole of their day. And then you can also create time for your hobby. There's time now to do different things, whether you like to sing, whether you like to draw or do something else. And also for the children, break up their task into small pieces. For now, we are trying to create schedules for children, trying to make them read and learn. We are not teachers, so we may not be qualified to do that. Break their task into bits, discuss their schedules with them and ask them what they like to do, and then break it into small pieces. And what's very, very important, please seek help, professional help from a therapist or from a counselor or from a psychologist if you feel that you're not coping. And with the children, if you note that their behavior is extreme because of that, please refer them to professionals as well. So thank you very much. We hope we'll build up on this series and also get to share other things that will help you. Thank you.